So the virtual machines, right? So whatever the kind of missions that you created using a virtual box, similar to that virtual box, but here we will be having the networking. Okay, for this particular virtual machines, we will work on the networking. So in our virtual box, we did not work on a networking. We did not choose any of IP ranges or something like that. But here, whenever you are working on a cloud, we are about to create some networking, and inside of that particular network, we are going to launch a virtual machine. Okay, let me give you an outline what we are trying to do today. So assume this is an Azure. So inside of this particular Azure cloud, we are going to create a respective resource group, and inside that particular resource group we will be having a respective virtual machine which is going to be launched on a respective vnet. Okay, on a vnet we are going to launch this particular virtual machine, and this particular virtual machine I am going to connect through private IP, only through private IP. Okay, so the public IP means anyone can able to log into that particular virtual machine if they know the credentials. But the private mean whoever the people part of that particular network, or the VPNs, or the respective using some of a services called a Bastion host, or using some jump servers, we will be connecting towards that particular virtual machine. Okay, and I'm a person who is outside of this particular Azure. I would like to connect towards this particular virtual machine using a private IP. Remember this, not a public IP, using a private IP. Okay, so these particular private IPs will not have by default a internet access. Okay, and in a real-time cases, we used to prefer the same way. In a real-time cases, whenever we are working with the virtual machines, we used to create with a private mode only. So there we will be having some of a VPN setups, open VPN setups and all that. That's what are somewhat advanced we will go and see whenever we are working with an application deployment. Okay, but as of now we are going to check on these particular scenarios. Okay, I would like to create some standard resource group for you here. So the virtual machine resource group get created. So here now I will create the virtual machine. So create one of a virtual machine, and the subscription is the same, and I would like to create where is this virtual machine resource group, and see the respective charges also you can see here, and private machine, I'm just giving it this particular naming, same region where my respective resource group get created. And here the availability option, I don't want any of an infrastructure to get created or to get maintained. Okay, and standard is fine, standard level of a security is fine. And the images, so what kind of an virtual machine that we will create? Come on, so let's take something like an Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu 24.04 latest version I am going to take this. Okay, see, this is similar to what the ISO image that you downloaded for virtual box. Okay, for a virtual box you have downloaded some ISO files, right? This is similar to that. So here you can have a number of the images, see, available at a marketplace, Windows or the Ubuntu Windows 11, or so there are a lot of things, almost 694 some pages are there in that. So in that lot of images, almost 13,872 images were there. Okay, so let's see. And here I was selecting some Ubuntu. And if you are having, for example, Windows 11 was not supported in the AWS. Okay, what they used to do is they used to create some customized image which supports the Windows 11, and based upon that particular image they will launch the respective virtual machines or the respective EC2 instances. Okay, but here, as the Windows 11 is also supported by the Microsoft, by default we had that particular image. Okay, and virtual machine, whatever the architecture, so that's fine. I would like to go for the 64-bit and run with the Azure spot discount. Let's see what's the price. Spot discount applied, so 12 rupees something. If I'm going to remove, almost 8,000. So what I will do is I will just select some other series. I'll just go with the B series one, which is of 1 CPU and 1 GB RAM to data disk. Let me go with this B1S, which is of a low cost. Okay, come back to the others. And okay, that's fine. So almost this particular size is going to cost some 880. One CPU with the 1 GB RAM is going to cost me 880 rupees for the month. And whereas the Ubuntu image, that is of a free, because that is in free trial. And the hibernation, this will be enabled for the higher respective sizes. For example, D series or the premium series, the hibernation will get enabled. So what is this particular hibernation means? Whenever you move your respective virtual machine into the hibernation mode, so your respective cache will not removed. Okay, just to save your cache of a machine, we will work with this hibernations. And right now, authentication method. So what kind of an authentication methods that you want? So whether you want some of a public key, that means we need to, whenever we are logging in towards this particular machine, we need to use that .pem key authentications. Okay, .pem key authentication needs to be used. Okay, that is one of a case, or else you can go with some password authentications. Okay, in a general cases, in a real-time case, we will go with the public key authentications itself. We will not depend on the password. For that, I am just going on a public key and the username. Okay, with what username that you want to create this particular virtual machine for the login. And let me give this administrator, or let me give just an admin. Okay, okay, administrator, username and all. Okay, that's fine. Then let me give Ubuntu itself, whether will it take or not. All right, so the username is also the Ubuntu, and SSH public key. So generate a new key pair, or if you are already having a key pair, you can utilize that as well. Okay, so far I did not create any of a key pair, so I want to create one of a new key pair which is of a RSA format. Okay, and my respective key pair name is VM key. Let me give with this particular naming convention. And I'm by default, I'm going to enable, see, inbound port rules. That means whatever the traffic that will reach out towards your mission, what traffic that will reach out towards mission. So specify that particular ports, from which port your respective mission will need to take inputs or the incoming traffic. Okay, so here we will be having some https and ssh, so I'm just limiting it towards the ssh. Okay, that means we can log into this particular ubuntu through ssh itself, so that's fine, no need of http or https. Next, disk. So whatever the disk storage that we will be having, like a volumes, or what we can say, like drives in our local machine, the drive, whatever the C drive, D drive will be there, right? Similar to that, our OS disk. Okay, and here by default you needs to take a 30 GB, so that is unlimited. Okay, and the OS disk type, I'm just going for critical. Yeah, I mean, let me go with the SSD instead of a premium, or let me go with the SSD 27. That's fine. And see this particular thing, delete with the VM. So why they have provided this particular thing is, so you have created this particular virtual machine with this particular OS disk. Okay, and if you are not going to enable this, or you forgot to delete the OS disk along with your virtual machine, and you forgot that, and your OS disk is available even though your virtual machine is deleted. So for that particular OS disk which is in the idle state, even for that the charges will apply. Okay, to avoid that unwanted expenses, so we will by default select this delete with the VM. Okay, and next, whatever the key management, so to manage your respective keys, security keys, or all that, so platform dependent key, I'm just going to set that. And these are not that much important. Okay, let me go for the networking. So here I will just create one of a new vnet. Okay, I'm just going to create a new vnet and a new subnet, and I don't want this particular public IP to get generated. Okay, I'm not going to generate a public IP. So if you're going to create a public IP, this is going to cost me some 300. Where your respective data transfer, see here, the data transfer estimated in GBs, it depends upon your data transfer, your respective charges will apply through this particular public IP. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to generate a public IP, because my scenario is to reach out towards this particular virtual machine using a private IP. So private IP means one of an IP will get picked up by the virtual machine from this subnet. Okay, and network interface, network security groups. So that means whatever the inbound or the outbound rules that you want to set, you can set it here. So once created, and public inbound ports, what are the ports that needs to be allow the traffic. So by default we had selected a previous SSH, so that is enabled, and we will be selecting the RDP for Windows type or Windows or a Mac, generally for GUI model, graphic user interface related machines, we will select the RDP model. Okay, right now my Ubuntu is console mode, so SSH is fine. And delete the NIC, and the respective VM is deleted, that's fine. And see here the load balancing concepts. So whatever the traffic that needs to be split So if you are having a two different load balancer, sorry, two different virtual machines, and a load balancer was available there, and if you want to split that, so using this particular load balancer, you can split it, the traffic, instead of pushing all the traffic towards a single machine, you can split the traffic towards a multiple instances if your application is available in multiple instance. I'm not going to take that. So we will work on that application load balancers and all that whenever we are deploying. Okay. And next, Microsoft Defender for the cloud. So this particular thing by default, it will check for the security ends. Okay, every time whenever a security parameters was uh, like patches or certain things, so it will send you a respective request, update this particular parameter or update this particular virtual machine with the respective plugins and all that respective areas. I'm just going to remove this. I'm not going to keep my virtual machine at a long time. And the identity, so respective managed identity, so whenever uh, managed identity will be used at instead of a user. Okay, instead of an user, for example, if I log into this particular function, what I will be doing the SSH log towards this particular information, because I have this particular PAM key and I have the respective username and the respective private IP, right? And by I can have respected or whatever things if I'm going with the normal authentication method. This managed identity means for this particular identities, a respective access key and the respective access ID will get generated. Okay, whenever a DevOps task or whenever a respective programming need to access your machine, so this particular managed identity will get generated. Okay, we will see these as well. We had a separate session on this managed identity service principles and all that. Okay, irrespective of the user, if a machine or programs or a task needs to access your machines, we will be going with managed identities or a service principles. And Microsoft Entra ID, so log in with your Microsoft Entra ID. That means if you want to log in towards your respective virtual machine, okay, with your into your respective virtual machine with whatever the credentials you have logged into your respective Azure account, okay, whatever the Azure credentials that you are using to log into the respective Azure portal or Azure cloud, so to you can use the same credentials to log into your respective virtual machines. So in a real-time cases, we will use the same kind. For example, if you want to log into some database machines, okay, to database machines, sorry, database servers. So nowadays, everyone is preferring to go for this kind of Microsoft Entra ID integration. So that instead of creating a new user accounts for the database servers to log in or to access a new database, instead of creating the users with the new credentials, by default we have an option called integrating this Microsoft Entra ID, so that you can log into that particular servers. It might be a virtual machine, it might be a database servers, it might be a web application servers. Wherever you had this particular option, you can use that if there is a requirement. In AWS, we had this IAM authentication. Okay, in AWS also we had certain scenarios where that particular IAM authentication is enabled. We can log into that particular database or whatever the machines. Okay, I'm not going for this particular option right now. Now auto shutdown. Okay, so once your respective activity is done, if you forgot, see for example, um, the lower environments, okay, like a dev environment or the lower environment which is used by the developers. So generally the developers will not work on a weekend side, Saturday or a Sundays. And whenever this particular virtual machine is on, keep on running, what happens, you will get charged with the expenses. So to make some cost optimizations, that means to save some expenses, we will do this auto shutdown. When we will do this auto shutdown, like at a half the business hours, if there is no business running on that particular machine, and if that particular mission is shut down, if there is no impact on your respective applications, then we can do that. Okay. Even for example, if your project is only in the India, so where your respective developers will work on that particular machines from 9 to 6 itself. After 6 to next day morning 9, if your respective virtual machine is in the idle state, and if that particular virtual machine is in the running state, what is the use? When the virtual machine is not doing any kind of an activities, what is the use? Right? In such scenarios also, we will make some auto shutdown if it is in the idle state, or we can write some cron jobs. If there is no any activity recorded in the virtual machine, immediately make this particular virtual machine into a stop state. Okay, certain scenarios are there, we will see going forward. And right now I'm just going to place this to mine. And notification before the, I don't want any of the notification. Enable the backup. So that means every day if there is any of the activity that was recorded in your virtual machine, so this kind of a backups we will be using if we are using a respective virtual machine for database related activities. Okay, for database related activities, if you are going to use your virtual machine, we prefer to go for backups. Or if you are using some web application deployment or web application maintenance in your virtual machine, we will go with the regular backups, just to make sure that our virtual machine is not going to be crashed whenever a certain activities was deployed or make some configuration changes or certain things. And enable the periodic assessment, whatever the guest OS, whatever the operating system we are going to deploy. So whenever we enable this repeatedly, when there is any patch for that particular OS, it will get deployed, and I don't want that. Okay. The monitoring, so this is the alerts. If your respective, see here, if your respective CPU, whatever the percentage of the CPU, see I have taken 1 GB of a 1 CPU with 1 GB RAM, right? So if that particular CPU was about to complete some 80%, or if that particular utilization or the performance reaches more than 80%, send me a notification. Or whatever the memory bytes, if the respective uh, disk respective memory is less than 1 GB, send me the notification. So like this we can send some customized alerts as well. Okay, so these alerts we will be using in a real-time cases for the monitoring purpose. Okay, so here the diagnostics again. So whenever a respective log activities needs to be recorded, okay, what activity was happened, what respective, for example, yeah, 2 days back we had a similar kind of an issue. What the scenario is, last year March, one of a respective user have created the EC2 instance in AWS. Okay, and whatever the key pair, that means whatever the key, generally right now PEM key that I selected for the login, he only created that particular PEM key. Okay, and what happened is in the recent layoffs, he was out of an organization and the key was with him, and we don't know exactly who created that. And whatever the monitoring alerts will last only for 90 days. So we are blocked there, whom to reach and all that. Okay, but end of the day, after deep dive into the troubleshooting activities at the metadata level, we got that particular person who has created that particular key pair. Okay, so that's the reason sometimes the log monitorings or the log backups will help us. Okay, and I'm just going to disable this. I don't want, and let me go for the advanced. These are some optionals only. So if you want your respective application, your virtual machine come with some extensions, or if your respective virtual machine required some default application deployed into your respective virtual machine, you can give here. For example, whenever if you browse your virtual machine IP, if you want to get some HTML script, you can write that particular script here. Okay, so even in the EC2 instances in AWS also, we had this particular kind of a data, user data there. Okay, yep. Let me go for the next. Create. Let me check. So almost 1.2 rupees per hour. That's fine. See, I was about to create that private key, right? So it was asking me to download that first. Once that is downloaded, the virtual machine will start creating. If you miss downloading that particular key, eventually no use. So you cannot recover that back. So that is the reason the key pairs plays a crucial role in the virtual machine logins or in the EC2 missions logins. The PEM keys or the key pairs, whatever we are about to create, right? So those plays a key role. If you miss that particular PEM key, there is no option to retrieve back. Only the thing is, for your virtual machine backup, whatever the backup will be generated, right? So you need to create one more virtual machine with that particular backup. That is the alternative. Okay, so if you make sure in a real time, even if you are going for next position after this or something, if you jump towards some DevOps position, make sure never ever lost these particular PEM keys, or never ever share these particular PEM keys with the developer or with some other colleagues if they ask you also. Even that particular scenarios will throw you under security. Okay, and if this particular private key or a PEM key once lost, so it is not retrievable. Okay, until unless if it is saved somewhere in some storage accounts. All right, so this is the respective virtual machine that it gets generated, and I need to connect towards this particular virtual machine, right? Towards this particular private virtual machine. So we had this particular overview. Inside that we had this connect option. Let me go over this connect. Okay, see here a private IP get generated and there is no public IP. Okay, now I just need to connect towards this particular virtual machine using the native SSH, using native SSH connection. Let me select that and see here SSH hyphen I, see SSH to the VM with a specified private key. Okay, so what it is saying, SSH hyphen I and the respective private IP. I'm just copying this. So we need to SSH from our local machine or from Azure Cloud Shell. So anywhere you can do. So wherever the CMD using a PowerShell also you can do. There is no limit. Okay, so I'm just going to do here SSH hyphen I and the respective, see whatever the thing there. So the username at the rate, let me, right. So the username at the rate, the private IP. So let's see what we are going to get the output. See, warning or the identity file, whatever the identity file means, this PEM key, C users and this particular PEM key was not accessible. No such file or a directory. That means in my path C users and this particular path there is no .ssh folder and there is no .id underscore rsa .pem, right? It was not there. So ultimately what happens finally, the connection timeout exception will get. Okay, so here let me take ssh hyphen I, and where did I download that particular thing? So it might be in my downloads. Let me go there. See here, VM key. So I will just copy this path. So C users, or we can just go over here itself. Let me go towards a CD downloads. Okay, now ssh hyphen I dot slash VM key dot pem, right? And followed by the Ubuntu at the rate my respective private IP 10.0.4. Let's check. See, you cannot reach out towards this particular machine. See, what is the issue that you are getting? What is the issue that you are getting? See, connect towards the host. What the host? 10.0.0.4 through the port number 22, the connection timeout. Why it is throwing me the connection timeout? See here. My respective IPv4 address is 172.17.144.1, and this particular IP address is 10.0.0.4. That means we are not in a same network. We are not in a same network. See, right now this particular activity was not possible from my local machine. Why? Because this particular mission, whatever the particular virtual machine, is launched on a private network. And if you want to reach out towards this particular virtual machine, you also need to be part of that particular network. You also need to part of that particular network. Then only it is a possible. In such cases, what we can do is, so whenever we are discussing on the virtual networking part, we had an option called the Bastion host, right? In a virtual network, we had something like a Bastion host. Let's go there. So private virtual network. So here we had seen the Bastion, right? So this particular Bayesian host, it will create one of an RDP or SSH connectivity. See here, it will create one of an RDP or SSH connectivity without the need of public IP addresses. For every network, for the respective virtual network, you can create this Bayesian host. And this particular Bayesian host means this will create one of a virtual machine which is part of your respective virtual network. See, right now, my local machine will never be part of a virtual network which is created in a cloud. Okay. So imagine this is my local machine and this is some issue related thing. And inside that, there will be a networking. Inside that, there will be certain resources. My virtual local machine will never be part of this particular network because I will be running on a random networks. My IP address will get changed randomly whenever I connect with the Wi-Fi's. See here. What's my IP? I'm just going here. Let's check. See, my respective IP address is this right now. My Wi-Fi related IP address is this, and my respective virtual machine IP is something like a 10.0.0.4. And if I change my Wi-Fi, this particular IP address will get changed. That means there is no constant IP address that will get generated here in your local machines. Okay, so what is the scenario that we can take is, here in this particular scenario, what is the other thing that we can check is creating a respective VPN setup. We will see that coming forward. We will see on this VPN setup, and allowing your respective mission to access this particular mission. We will see that going forward. Okay, so right now the alternative is in the respective Azure, and whatever the network is there, imagine this is a private, and inside of this particular network itself you can create one of a Bastion host, and this particular Bastion host will by default internally create with a public network. Okay, by default will be created with a public network, and this particular Bastion can able to access any number of a resources, that are part of that particular virtual machine. Okay, so this particular Bastion host can able to access any virtual machines that are part of that particular network. So let's see that creating a Bastion host, or some people will be calling this as a jump server as well. Okay, let me go and create this Bastion host. Select a VM. So this is my particular VM which needs to be generated, and SSH key, private key from a local machine. And what is the username? Ubuntu. I have created a Ubuntu username, and let me select the respective file. Selected this. Not required. Open in a new browser tab. Let's connect. Okay, my respective browser is blocking this because this is a new one. Let me connect now. See, who am I? Right now I was logged in towards this particular virtual machine, my respective private machine. I have logged in towards my private machine. See here, I did not log in through the respective command prompt or a PowerShell or a respective thing. I have created one of a Bastion. Some people will be calling like that. So by creating this particular Bastion host in the virtual network, so through that particular Bastion host, I have connected towards my respective machine. Okay, so when you can reach out towards this particular Bastion host means, see, this particular Bastion host which was created, this will be created by default with the public internet access internally. That's fine. So you might think that so everyone can able to access this particular Bastion host, but here there is no that particular possibility. See here, this particular Bastion host, are you able to see anything of the IP addresses that you part of your respective Bastion host? Nothing. Here is something like a CDN URL, content delivery network URL was there. Okay, so this particular URL will keep on generated every time whenever you are about to connect towards this Bastion host, and this particular Bastion can be accessed whenever you have an access towards your respective Azure account. If you are having an Azure account, and if you are part of that particular subscription and part of that particular resource group where your virtual network is available, and inside of that particular virtual network, if you are provided with a Bastion host or a Bastion access, then only you can able to connect towards this Bastion host and can able to reach out towards your respective mission through the private IP. Okay, this is one of the case. Okay, this is one of the case, like connecting towards this particular Bastion host. Sorry, see, immediately whatever the URL I just given a back, so it was closed. That means every time whenever you refresh this particular URL, it will get changed. Whatever the keys here it was recorded, these will get changed. These are not a constant. Okay, so this is one of the way of connecting towards your virtual machine through a private mode. And the other thing, we had one more option. Okay, we had a one more option, which is nothing but a jump server access. Let me show you that. So in the same Azure and the same virtual network, the same virtual network. So this is a private machine, and there is one of a virtual machine which is created with the public IP. But here see, your respective machine is part of a same vnet. Your respective machine is a part of a same vnet. Now what you can do is, this particular virtual machine, see, this particular virtual machine, it have some public IP access. Okay, so you can able to reach out towards this particular virtual machine. You can able to reach out towards this particular virtual machine, and after you are logging into this particular virtual machine, after you are logging into this particular virtual machine, you can able to access this private virtual machine. Why? Because this particular virtual machine and this particular virtual machine are of same virtual network, right? These two machines are of the same virtual network. So from one mission to the another mission, you can connect through private IPs directly because they are part of the same network. This is one of an alternative, and this particular public machine will be called as a jump server. Okay, so what is the scenario? First, the respective person will reach out towards the public virtual machine through the respective public IP, and inside of this particular public virtual machine, you will be connecting towards a private virtual machine from this, because these two are part of same vnet. Okay, clear? See, whatever the concept that we are having here is plays a crucial role. Okay, what is a jump server? Sometimes you will get in interviews. So why do we need to use this particular jump server, right? So the same, even in the AWS, you will be having a same kind of a Bastion host or the NAT instances. Okay, similar kind here. The public, whatever the machine which is created with the public IP, the vnet. So that particular respective virtual machine can able to reach out towards your respective virtual machine through the private IP. Okay, let's see that. I will quickly generate one of a virtual machine. Let's see. Bastion host. I'll just delete this because it will cost me some expenses. I will delete this Bastion host. And meanwhile, let's go towards our virtual machines and create one of a virtual machine through the same. What is this? Yeah. So public machine, South India. So no infrastructure. Trusted standard is fine. Ubuntu, yeah, B1S. This is fine. I would like to go with the same SSH public key. Azure user existing public key. Let me take it here. The value must not be empty or let me take that. So this is my previous generated key. Okay. Try you may get with SSH or SSH. So VM key, that's fine. And allowed ports, that's fine. OS disk standard, it's fine. Delete, yep. Networking, private network, default, public mission IP, all good. Enable, yep. Disable, not required. Oh, all right, let me check here. So I don't want this much. Right, so this particular one will be costing me 1321. Let me create. Public machine virtual is not yet ready. Let's wait until this particular uh, warning was gone. Right, let me go connect into SSH. Okay, it's not yet started. Let's wait until this validation completed. And your respective public IP address is this. And right now you can connect from your local machine as well because you had a public IP address. Let me go here, down, sorry. And what is the command that we will be using? SSH-I and the respective key followed by the username, Azure user. The username is the Azure user at the rate the respective public IP. Just copying this. Let's see. See, earlier we get a timeout at that particular time itself. Now we are able to connect towards this particular virtual machine. See, the public virtual machine. Now we are able to connect towards this machine. Okay. Now the thing is, in this particular virtual machine, okay, let's create one of a directory. See, my respective PEM key was available outside. Right now, my respective PEM key was available outside. That means in my local machine. So this particular virtual machine will not accept right now. So this will refer towards the virtual machine related files itself. What I will do is I will just create a directory called the keys. Sorry. So inside that particular keys, I will generate one of a PEM key, vmkey.pem. Let's see, insert, and I will just copy this particular content and paste it here. Save this particular file, VM key. Let me check whatever the content that was part of this. So whatever the content that I required for the key, that was available. Now I can take SSH, see here, SSH -I in the respective key followed by your respective private machine username is Ubuntu. So Ubuntu at the rate your respective private machine IP address. So private machine IP, where is this? .0.0.4. I'm just giving it. Let's check. See, what is the thing? Bad permission denied for the public key. So let me give in this way. Or chmod right. Let me try now. Where is this here? For R to open, it is required that a private key is not accessible by others. Will be load those. All right. Unprotected private key file. Let's find permissions 000 to open unless hyphen. This was available only. The private keys are not accessible by others. Okay. Thank you. Okay. See, just give. Okay. See, now it is fine. That is an access issue. So who have created that particular private key only for that particular person, it was taking the permissions, rest other groups or others, so it needs to be empty. So that's what the issue that we are having. It is required that your private key or not accessible by others. That is the reason. What did I do? I have provided 700. That means whoever the owner of this particular file should have a complete access. Rest of the other should not have. Okay, see, whenever I have done that using sudo chmod 700, and immediately the permissions of that particular file changed towards me who have created, right? And later when I done with the ssh login towards that particular virtual machine, my private machine, I can able to do, see here, Ubuntu at the rate private machine. Earlier it is Azure user at the rate public machine. Right now it is Ubuntu at the rate private machine. That means I can able to log in towards this particular private machine right now, right? And if you exit this particular private machine, you will be gone towards a public machine. Okay, if you exit that private machine, you will be stayed in a public machine case. Okay, so that is how your respective jump server or a public machine will help out to connect towards a private machines, private IP related machines. If that particular machines are part of a same vnet, so we can able to connect to through this. Okay, we had another option called the VPN setup. So through the VPN setup from any network, we can connect towards that particular machine using a private IP. We will see that. Okay, later. So any questions up to here?